There is going to be a bubble. There's going to be a massive bubble burst in the market some point soon, in my opinion. Now, I am not an expert, don't know how the markets work for the most part, but I do know that college tuition debt is ridiculously high, and we're going to have one of two scenarios. Either colleges can't sustain themselves anymore, and the entire industry and economy propped up by universities in various cities collapses, which is bad for the economy. Students maybe stop paying their loans, bad for the economy. Or the students demand socialism to alleviate their debt. Because I know many people who are democratic socialists, because of their debt and because they feel trapped, they think the only way out is government programs and assistance. So we have this story from MarketWatch. How the Great Recession turned America's student loan problem into a $1.5 trillion crisis. The financial crash, which began 10 years ago this month with the collapse of Lehman Brothers, created a perfect storm. We have this photo right here. It says, "You can't foreclose my brain." That's true. They can't. So a lot of college students that I've talked to, I should say I know a couple people who have said straight up they're just not going to pay their loans anymore, period. They're going like semi off the grid, working under the table, and they've given up. Their degrees are worthless. They can't find jobs. Things are bad. And so they feel like the only solution is a government bailout of some sort. Admittedly, today's economy is actually doing really well. So, we'll see what happens. But so they say, like millions of Americans in the wake of the 2008 financial collapse, Charles Neumeyer struggled to find a new job. The now 32-year-old figured he'd increase his chance of landing a gig if he upped his credentials. So after speaking to a recruiter, he enrolled at a local campus of Wyotech College in 2009. Neumeyer ultimately graduated with a degree in advanced automotive technology and a handful of other certifications, but they weren't much help in getting him toward his eventual career path. He's working in the automotive industry, but everything that they do now, I knew how to do before I went there, he said. Really? I didn't go to college. I didn't go to high school. And one of the big problems we have, instead of telling people, why don't you go try and find a job, we tell them, go to school and spend money for a degree that you probably won't use. People need to learn how to become entrepreneurs. People need to learn how to be self-sustainable. Instead, we keep telling people to seek others to sustain you. It is insane. We tell people to get jobs at a company. We tell people, go to college to get a good job. No. You need to figure out how you can do something in exchange for something else. Plain and simple. Imagine this. To all the college students who may be watching this, imagine there is someone standing in front of you holding a $100 bill. What you need to do is convince that person to give that $100 bill to you. Plain and simple. Once that bill is handed from one hand to yours, you have made money. You don't need to get a job. You don't need to wait till the end of the week. You need to figure out what you can do so that person agrees to give you that money. Now, there are illegal things you shouldn't do, like forcing them to give you the money. That's bad. Don't do that. However, have you considered taking a small piece of wood and whittling it into a little boat and saying, how about a little boat in exchange for that green piece of paper? That's trade. You have chosen to do something. The other person found value in what you did and traded his money for your object. It's that simple, okay? I'll tell you another story. I told the story on this channel before. You go online, you buy, like you design a bunch of shirts, you sell the shirts. It's really that simple, right? So I have a storefront. It's in the description, and I sell shirts. And I don't make a lot of money off of them because I don't really push the shirts. I'm not trying to sell the shirts. But the thing is, like people on YouTube, people like me, we're trying to figure out what we can do for you so that you buy from us. Plain and simple. That's how business works. The most important thing I can do is talk about ideas that are important so that you all watch the video, and then when a commercial plays, I get like a nickel, or it's actually like a penny. It's like less than a penny, I think. But when enough people watch, the pennies add up, and then there's real money because advertisers are buying off of my content because they know you watch it. This is business. People aren't teaching. We're not teaching our young people how to do business, how to trade, and how to survive. We're teaching them to attach themselves to someone else, and then they complain about it. They say, this is not what I want to do. Right. Think about it this way. Imagine there are no jobs. Imagine there's no company and your degree's worthless. Is your degree going to turn to food? No. Does it guarantee you food? It doesn't. You know what guarantees you food? Finding food, farming, hunting. Those things do. It's like we've lost the natural understanding of reality, that you are responsible for sustaining your own body. Okay? You can't expect to go to a job and get everything you need. And if the job doesn't provide you what you need to live, don't work there. One of the biggest problems I have when people talk about like how employers should give certain benefits and all that, I'm like, listen, if every single McDonald's employee said, I'm not going to work here anymore because it doesn't pay me enough and I'd rather, spend time looking for something else, well then McDonald's would be forced to pay more to compete. But because we're in this weird pseudo society where people don't understand how to be entrepreneurs, they'll just accept it. They'll work 80 hours and they'll say it's not enough, but what else can I do? And this creates a downward spiral that's bad for everybody. But we'll continue with the article. They say, what's more, Neumeyer is still paying for a degree that he realized shortly after graduating would have cost him much less at a community college. Wyotech was part of the Corinthian Colleges, a chain of for-profit schools that collapsed in 2015 amid allegations it misled students. Meanwhile, Neumeyer said he and his family are struggling to manage the $78,000 he acquired, a debt I'm assuming, he acquired from attending the school, because actually they managed to manage the $78,000 he acquired. Yeah, the way they phrase that, it sounds like he made 80 grand. Pretty sure that's not what they're saying, but you should probably fix it. Right now, it doesn't fit into my budget, and I'm ignoring phone calls, Neumeyer said, of his student loan bill. Right. Well, eventually they'll just garnish your wages, because you can't walk away from these. He is just one of millions of students who made sometimes desperate decisions in the aftermath of the financial crash to improve their skills and hopefully find well-paid work. No! You were lied to! Okay? When the market crashed, and you lost your job, and you lost your house, and you had nothing, going to school was not the right thing to do. You'd be better off living on the beach. I'm not joking. Well, maybe it's not true, okay? You've accrued this debt, but basically, listen. When you take out loans, you get to live for a period for free, and you have to pay those loans back. And sometimes these loans are very predatory. People are willing to lie, cheat, and steal to put you in that position, and I think it's a problem. I know people who have taken out student loans and partied their ass off for years and did no work. Well, I worked my ass off. And then when they got to college, they have all this debt, and then they complain they have to pay it back. And I said, don't you remember when you'd spend $100 on Friday night at the bar for no reason? And I was working at an airport lifting bags? Why should you get other people's tax money to pay off what you used because you wanted a career, because you wanted to get a diploma? You didn't even need a diploma for a career. Because you wanted to party, because you wanted to live downtown, you wanted to live in a different state or in a city. Why? Well, you know what? I'm not going to hold it against people because they did this, because our society tells young people to do it. I'm not going to blame my friend who got student loans and then lived this college life because that's normal. People are told, go to college, get loans, go to school, get a degree, get a job, and you can pay your loans back. So they do it. They wouldn't do it if society didn't tell them to do it. And now we have a problem. They're going to continually look to socialist policies to solve their problems because there is no out. There's no jobs. $78,000? I know people who have $200,000 in debt. There's literally nothing they can do to pay it off. But they got trapped in a system that told them it was the right thing to do, and now they're screwed. And I empathize with that, right? The solution is not going to be socialism, but I'll tell you what. If we as a society do not get a grip on how the college system is working, we will end up with an authoritarian socialist system that will not be fun for anybody. Most of the people I know who have debt aren't necessarily even socialists, but I'll tell you what, they will absolutely vote for a socialist in 2 seconds if they're told their debt will be wiped clean if they do. Because then you can breathe. Then you have freedom. They say the Great Recession helped push student debt past $1.5 trillion, up from about $671 billion at the beginning of 2008, according to Federal Reserve Bank of New York data. The crash, which began 10 years ago this month, the collapse of Lehman Brothers, created a perfect storm of high unemployment, stagnant wages, and the declining value of American homes meant that families had fewer resources to use to pay for college. I don't know what the we sorry thing is. So, this is a long article. I'm not going to read through the whole thing. They talk about how for-college enrollment spiked during the recession. Following the recession, everyone thought, I'll tell you what, I had friends who said, I have no job, I have no money. If I take out some more loans, I can weather this storm. They thought that the loans would allow them to live for a couple of years until the market fixed itself, and then they could go find a good job and pay their loans back. Unfortunately, it hasn't really worked out too well for them. Because their interest is too high, they can't afford to live. More importantly, it's kind of like indentured servitude. They got the access to the resource they wanted, now they're working a job, but their debt is so high that they're not living as well as they probably could have if they just worked at a Starbucks. I read this report from an economist years ago. One of the reasons I didn't go to college is because when I was a teenager, it said, if you spend 2 years working at McDonald's and then take 10% of everything you make and put it into a savings account, or 4 years. If for 4 years, after the 4 years of working at McDonald's, you will probably have a promotion. You will have had raises. You will maybe even be assistant manager, maybe even a manager if you work really hard. Okay, and then you put 10% of your income. You're going to have somewhere between like $20,000 and $30,000 saved up after 4 years of saving all of that money. Maybe not that much, but like $10,000 to $20,000. If you go to college, you will get out, not have a guaranteed job, and you will be negative $40,000. Which one makes more sense? Working a job, learning real world skills that can translate into other areas of business in this country, things that people need. Maybe even you can work like a shop. You can work apprentice as a plumber or something, whatever. Get a job that people trade jobs. Or you can go to school and get out with massive debt and have no job. And people are opting for the no job and massive debt. And that made no sense. It was an article that said, if you told someone they could invest $40,000 over 4 years, and when they got out, they would owe $40,000 plus interest, they would laugh in your face and say it's a terrible investment. But if you told them that they could simply invest work a job, and after 4 years of working their job, they'll have a savings of $40K. They'll be like, well, that's the better bet. Save money. Then with that $40K, you can do a lot of things. You can buy a small house in a certain area. But a lot of kids are doing what they're told to do, and I think this is a problem. And that's why I think colleges have started to breed authoritarianism and violence and socialist tendencies and things of this nature. Anyway, long story short, I got to get out of here, but college sucks. There's so much wrong with it. The point I want to get across is, look, you might not want to help out these college students, but I'll tell you what, if we don't figure out how to alleviate the student debt crisis, these kids are going to grow up and they're going to vote for whichever politician is going to guarantee them some relief. And that means you're going to find more socialist politicians advocating for these things, and they're just going to say, sure, whatever, don't care. And I don't believe that's the solution. The solution isn't to just say the state should tax other people to cover these debts. Maybe there's a one-time thing we have to do. I don't know. But what I can say is, where we are right now with kind of a mixed economy is a good thing. Let's kind of keep it that way. We can always do better. But you know what? I don't know. I don't have all the answers. Don't take my word for it. Just look at the data and know that we're facing a shitstorm, and something's got to be done. Maybe you have a better idea than I do. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Stay tuned. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 4.